This little video is to show you how to make these cute little jelly bean penguins. So these little penguins are completely no-sew, so they work up super quickly. The only thing we need to do once we've completed crocheting is to embroider this little beak on them. So today I'm going to be using the Hobbii Honey Bunny yarn. I'm going to use plum and lilac for my main colors because they'll be easier to see on camera. And I'm going to use the gold dust and white as well. In addition, I've also got my H hook. I like the Clover and Moor hooks, and this is a 5.0. And then I also have my scissors and my bent tip needle. You don't need a bent tip needle, but you do need some sort of yarn needle. I have 10mm safety eyes and stitch markers and stuffing. If you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, there's a free version available on my blog. And there's also a paid 5-in-1 version, so you get all 5 of the jelly bean birds. It's available on Ravelry and Etsy. So I will link all of that in the description below for you. I also want to mention that if you want to adjust the playback speed, you can do so by hitting the cog in the upper right corner of the video. And then there is a section called playback speed. And so you can adjust that to speed it up or slow it down, whatever your preference is. And don't forget, as we're going along, you're free to pause the video whenever you like, to take a break, get caught up, what have you. And that's about it. Let's get started. So let's begin using the lilac and making our wings. So you want to start by leaving about 4 to 6 inches of tail before you do your slip knot. Then we're going to do a slip knot. And we are going to chain 3. Next up, we are going to place 3 double crochet stitches into the 3rd chain from the hook, which is also our starting chain. Then we're going to chain 2 and slip stitch again into that starting chain. So this starting chain is also the chain that we're going to use to crochet our wings on. So we're going to mark it with a stitch marker as well. So you're going to cut your yarn about 4 to 6 inches out, so you have a tail on each side of your stitch marker. So I like to keep one side, one on the other, because then I can tie them around the stitch. I'll show you what I mean once we get to crocheting on our wing. And then I'll add a stitch marker right in there. Now, if you're sure that you'll know where that chain is, then don't worry about the stitch marker. But otherwise, add that in there because it will help later on here. Then we'll go on to making our second one. So again, leave about 4 to 6 inches to start and do a slip knot. We're going to chain 3. And then we're going to do 3 double crochets in the 3rd chain from the hook or the starting chain. Then you want to chain 2, slip stitch into that starting chain. And then we're going to cut our yarn, pull our yarn through, and then add a stitch marker to that starting chain. There we go. We are done. So make sure that you make 2 wings, and then we'll come back and we'll start the body and head. So next up, we're going to start the body and head. So again, I'm going to use my lilac color to begin. And this time I'm going to start with a magic ring. So if you're not comfortable doing a magic ring, it's okay if you chain 2 and place all of your stitches for the first round into the 2nd chain from the hook. Otherwise, go ahead with your magic ring. I like to make sure that it'll move before I start placing my stitches, and then I put my stitches in very loose for the first round. So for round 1, we're going to place 6 single crochet stitches into our ring. then close your ring. And I find if you find where the knot is over here under your first single crochet and just pull over, then that helps to close it. Okay, and we'll add our stitch marker in. And then for round two is an increase round. So we are going to put 2 single crochets into each stitch around. So we'll increase in each stitch around. So we'll go from having 6 stitches up to 12 stitches. Okay, so for round 3, again, we're going to do an increase round. This time we're going to go from having 12 stitches up to 18. So to do that, we're going to single crochet in the next stitch and then do an increase or place 2 single crochets in the stitch after that. So 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochets, and we'll alternate that all the way around for 6 times total. So again, 1 single crochet, then 2 single crochets. And we'll go from having 12 stitches up to 18 stitches. All right, so for round 4, in round 4, we are going to add in our little feet. So you want to grab your accent color. I'll be using the plum again for this. So you don't need very much, but I'm just going to pull out a bit so that I'm ready. All right, and then you're going to start your first stitch with a single crochet. But as you're completing your single crochet, that last pull through, that's where you want to change your yarn color over. So you want to pull through with your accent yarn color, whatever color you've decided for your feet. And I like to leave about a 4-inch tail here. And you don't have to worry about attaching it to anything yet. Once we've finished this round, I'll show you how to attach the yarns. So then we're going to do a bobble stitch to make our foot. So to make a bobble stitch, you want to yarn over and insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over through 2. And you want to repeat that 4 more times. So you're basically making the beginning part of a double crochet, and then you're going to pull it all together at the top. So we need to do this 4 more times. Yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over and insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over through 2. One more time. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and take our lilac color again, and we're going to yarn over with that for our final one. You should have 6 loops on the hook at this point. So yarn over, and you want to make sure that your plum color is pretty tight on both ends, because that's what helps our bobble stitch stick out. And then we want to pull through all those 6 loops. Again, tighten it down, not too much because you don't want to break the yarn. And then you want to push over the stitch to make sure that you're working into the next stitch. And then you're going to do a single crochet there in that next stitch. Make sure that's also tight. And then you want to single crochet in the next 4 stitches as well. And so you'll have 5 stitches total in between, and when you're working on that 5th stitch, you want to pull through with your darker color again for the next foot. So I hadn't ended off this color yet. I'm going to just cut it so that there's again about 4 inches, and then I'm going to go ahead and use that to pull through on the next foot, and again about 4 inches for the tail. We're going to do another bobble stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, through 2, and do that 4 more times. I do have additional videos for these skills like the magic ring and bobble stitch if you want to have a slower video. So I'll link the beginners list below, beginners playlist, and it has all these videos. So what I did here is after I had the 6 loops on the hook, I yarned over with my main color and pulled it through. So just like we did with the first foot, and tightening down the darker yarn here, the plum color, and then I want to move it over so I'm using the next stitch, and I'm going to do a single crochet here. Okay, and then I want to single crochet in the rest of the stitches around, so there's 9 more stitches, so 10 if you include this one right after the bobble. So single crochet in the next 9, and then I'll show you how I tie off the yarn for the legs. So you want to cut your yarn with about 4 inches, and then you're going to just tie the beginning and the end tails for each foot together. The same for this one. And you want to make sure that you're not pulling too tight, because this is a stitch that we're going to work into in the next round, as is this one. So now we're going to start round 5. And for round 5, we're going to do a decrease round. So we're going to go from having 18 stitches down to 15 stitches. So to do that, we're going to single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, and then we're going to do a single crochet decrease. And we'll repeat that 3 times. 1, 2, and then we need our decrease here, and repeat that 2 more times, so 3 in total. Single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then do a decrease. Okay, so that's the end of round 5. So for rounds 6 and 7, you're going to single crochet in each stitch around. So I'm going to do that off camera, but when you've completed round 7, you will still have 15 stitches. And I'll be right back to show you round 8. All right, so here we are at the end of round 7. I'm going to make sure that you still have 15 stitches. And then before we start round 8, we need to measure out where our wings are going to go. So because we all crochet a little bit differently, that means our stitches stack a little bit differently, and this can throw off where our wings sit. So to fix this, we want to lay our animal down on a flat surface with the feet facing up, and we're going to measure out the middle 7 stitches. So you don't need to place stitch markers in each stitch, but I'm going to for the video just to make it easier to show you. So start by lining up where your center stitch is, And then you also want to mark 3 stitches to the left and right. Okay, so now that I have those 7 stitches marked, and again, you don't need stitch markers for all of it, then we're going to count over to the right of the marked stitches, and you'll be doing this on the left-hand side if you're left-handed, but move to the right of those marked stitches, and this stitch right here, this is the stitch that we want to work into to put our wings on. So you want this to be the first stitch of your next round. So for me, that is my next stitch naturally, but if you ended off back here and need another stitch, just go ahead and crochet that extra stitch in there. Or if you need to take a stitch out, that's okay too, but make sure that the first stitch of round 8 will be the one to the right of this last stitch marker, or again to the left if you're left-handed. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to grab one of our wings, and I have my stitch marker in here showing me the starting chain. So what I'm going to do is when I crochet into the starting chain, I'm going to try to have one tail on each side, because I also want to tie the tails around the stitch after. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So let's start by inserting our hook into that starting chain of the wing. So that's the one that you marked, and then into the next stitch of the body. We're going to do a single crochet through that. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take out all our stitch markers. So after you've taken out your stitch markers, we're going to do a single crochet decrease here, our next stitch, and then we're going to single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And then we'll do another decrease. Okay, and then we're ready to add on our next wing. So again, you want to check for where the starting chain is, put one tail on each side, and put your hook through that starting chain, and then through the next stitch of the body, and single crochet that together. Okay, and then we're gonna single crochet in the next 2 stitches. We're going to do another decrease, and then we're going to finish the round by single crocheting in the last 2 stitches. So what we've done here is we've attached the wings, but we've also decreased our round. So we've gone from having 15 stitches down to 12 stitches. Now as you're finishing this last single crochet, I want you to grab your head color. So for me, that's the plum, that in the last pull through of this stitch. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to end off my purple yarn here, and I will tie, or sorry, the lilac. I'll tie the lilac to the plum, and then I'm going to show you what I meant by putting the tails and tying the tails of the wings. So I'm going to tuck that in there. We'll kind of move that out of the way. And then with this wing here, take my hook. Okay, so see how we've crocheted this stitch here? And take my stitch marker out as well so it's easier. So we've crocheted here in this stitch. So what I want you to do is take each of the tails and go through each side of that stitch and pull in your tails And we're going to come this side of the stitch. And then on the inside, just make a knot to tie them off. Now you don't have to do this part. You do need to weave in the ends somehow, but you don't have to do it this way. It just gives the wing a little bit of extra stability, so it's not flapping around as much. There we go. Now we're going to do the same thing to this other wing. Just pull through on each side of that stitch. And tie it off. You can tuck all of those ends in to your penguin. Okay, so now we're going to start the head of the penguin. So for round 9, we're going to go from having 12 stitches up to 24 stitches. So to do that, we want to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So we're going to increase in each stitch around. Now, to do the color change here, I'm going to do a slip stitch first in the back loop, and then this slip stitch I'm not going to count as a stitch when I come back around. I'm just going to ignore it. So I'm still going to do 2 single crochets in this stitch. So technically there's 3 stitches in here, but this first one we're going to skip over when we come back around. So again, we're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. And we're going to set up for having our white color change in the next round. Okay, so I'll be right back, but grab your white yarn or whatever color you're using for the face, and then come back and we'll do round 10 together. Okay, so here we are at the beginning of round 10, and I found my white yarn that I'm going to use for my face. And to start, we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches with our dark colored yarn. So, and remember when I did my color change, I did this slip stitch, so I'm going to skip over that. And I'm going to single crochet in these 2 colors. On the last pull through of the second single crochet, I'm going to add in my new color. So I'm not an expert on color change. I'm going to show you through this video how I color changed this face, but you may have other techniques that work for you. So the last pull through here of the second stitch, and then what we need to do is we're going to single crochet in the next 10 stitches. Okay, and on the 10th stitch, we're going to grab our dark color again. So I am going to cut this yarn and leave about a 4-inch tail. You can work it behind if you want, but I find then it shows through because there's such a contrast in the colors. So then I'm going to reattach here on this last pull through, and don't worry about all these yarn tails here. We're going to tie them all together when we're done. And then we need to single crochet in the next 10 stitches, or sorry, 12 stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the white yarn about 4 inches, and then we're going to start here on round 11. So for round 11, we're going to start by single crocheting in those first 2 stitches again. And again, we're going to attach our white in and leave a tail. And we're going to single crochet in the next 10 stitches. And on the last stitch, we're going to take our purple yarn, and again, we want to cut it. We'll attach it on our last pull through, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 12 stitches. So rounds 10 and 11 are the exact same. I did separate them out in the pattern just to make it a little bit easier to follow with all the color changes. Okay, so now we're on to round 12. And round 12, we switch things up a little bit. So we're gonna have a dark part in the center of the white as well. So I'll show you how I did that with the color changes. We're gonna start again with single crocheting in the next 2 stitches. And again, we want to take our white, if you haven't already, cut the 4 inches, leave the 4-inch tail and cut it. And then we're going to attach it in here. And for this round, I'm going to use floats for my color change. So attach this in. Because there isn't as far between the color changes in this next round, I'm just going to float the yarn behind. And I'll show you exactly what I mean in a second. So here I'm going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches. And this time you don't want to cut your dark yarn. Okay, on the last pull through of that 4th stitch, you're going to grab your purple yarn from behind, or whatever color you're using for the head, the dark colored yarn, and you'll use that for your last pull through. So now what you want to do is make sure that your stitch is sitting where you want it, and you want to make sure that this float, is what we call it, is fairly tight. You don't want it too tight because you don't want it to pull on your stitches, but you want it tight enough that the yarn sits nicely over here. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And on the last pull through of that 2nd stitch, we're going to pick up our white yarn. And again, you want to try to keep your stitches as even as possible here. So see how we have the white coming across here? We're not having it pull the stitches, and we're not having it too loose. We're having it nice and even. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches with our white yarn. And on that 4th stitch, we're going to again grab our purple yarn, use that to pull through and tighten things down. Again, you want to make sure your floats have a nice tension behind. And then we're going to finish off this round with single crocheting in the next 12 stitches. So now you can cut this white yarn if you want, but make sure you leave a tail. But we're going to single crochet in the last 12 stitches. Okay, on to round 13. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that white yarn now. So we do have a lot of tails back here, but the great thing about amigurumi is that you'll never see all of this mess. We'll be able to tie these off and you'll never see it. So to start round 13, we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches with our dark yarn still. And on that second stitch, the last pull through, we're going to grab our white again. Okay. And then for our little white section, we are going to single crochet, decrease, and then single crochet. So single crochet in your next stitch. Then you want to do a decrease. And then single crochet again, but on that last pull through, we're going to grab our purple yarn or your dark colored yarn and pull that through the last stitch. And again, we're floating that behind. Make sure that you've got a good tension there. If you want, you could cut your yarn at each section. Because we're only doing 5 rounds, you could do it that way. But I like to use the floating method because it's a little bit faster and a few less ends to tie off after. So after we've completed that white section, we're going to single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And on that second stitch, we're going to change to our white on that last pull through. Again, that's floated behind. And then for this section of white, we want to single crochet in the next stitch, then decrease, then single crochet. And on that last single crochet, the last pull through, we're going to grab our purple yarn again, pull that through, make sure our tension is still good. And then for the last part of this round, we're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. Then we need to do a decrease, single crochet decrease. And then we're going to single crochet in the last 4 stitches of the round. Okay, on to round 14. So this is our last round with color changes. So for round 14, again, we're going to start with our dark color and we'll single crochet in those first 2 stitches. And on that second stitch, we will grab our white yarn. So I haven't cut my white yarn yet. I am going to cut it here and leave my tail. Okay, then I'm going to pull through with that white yarn. Make sure my tension is good. Okay, and then I need to single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. switch over on the last pull through of that second stitch to my purple or the dark color. Make sure my tension is still good. And then for this section, I want to single crochet, decrease, and single crochet. Single crochet, then we're going to do a decrease. Okay, and then on this last single crochet, we want to grab our white yarn and use that for our last pull through. We'll check our tension, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And on the second stitch, we're going to switch back over to our dark colored yarn, and we are going to end off our white yarn. So in this case, ending off, we can just cut it until we finish this round, and then we'll go through and we'll tie all of our ends. So to finish this round, we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches with our dark color. Then we're going to do a decrease. And then we'll single crochet in the next 5 stitches. And then we're going to do a decrease for our last stitch. Okay, so we made it through the color changes. They're a little bit tricky, but with some practice, you'll definitely get it. Okay, so that is the end of round 14. Before we go any further though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the head inside out, and then I can see all of these tails that I've left on the face. Okay, so then what I did is I tied off every 2 colors. They don't have to be different colors, they just need to be the ends. So you want to tie them. Make sure that they are tied to another color or to another tail. Doesn't have to be a different color, but tied to another tail. Okay, and make sure you're tying them tight, but you don't want to go too tight and make your tension all wonky. Okay, and see I've got 3 here, so I'm going to take this one that I've just tied already and then tie it to this one, because everything needs to be tied off. Okay, that's what I do on the one side, and then we're going to move over to the other side and do the exact same thing. And then we're going to double check and make sure we have all of our tails accounted for, because we don't want these coming out on us. We have 1 leftover tail, so I'm going to use one of the tails from the previous knot to tie it off. Again, you may have a different technique for your color changes, but this is the one that I found worked best for me when making these little guys. So there we go. We've got all of that set up, and then I'm going to tuck all of those yarn tails in so that they're out of my way. And then we are going to do round 15, and then we'll add in our eyes. So for round 15, we're going to do a decrease round. We're going to go from having 18 stitches down to 15. So those last 2 color change rounds that we did, they were also decrease rounds. I did not mention that as I went along, but they were also decrease rounds. So we should have 18 stitches now that we've completed round 14. So again, round 15, we're going to go from having 18 stitches down to 15 stitches. So to do that, we're going to single crochet, and now we're only using our dark color. We don't need the white anymore. We're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then we're going to do a decrease. And we'll repeat this pattern 3 times in total. Again, single crochet in the next 4 stitches. And then we'll do a decrease. Okay, so you should have 15 stitches now that we've completed round 15. And before we head into round 16, we're going to add our eyes. So finding the spot to add your eyes is a lot easier with this face already crocheted in. But what we want to do is we want to go up to round 12 of the body and head. So we know that we crocheted in our wings at round 8. So 9, 10, 11, 12. And we want to have them about 6 stitches apart. So again, with the face already being here, it makes it easier to calculate or to count that out. So it's in here, and then we're going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is where our second one will go. Okay, so just like that. And then we'll add our backs in there. And what we can also do is start to add a little bit of stuffing in here because we only have a couple rounds left to go. Okay, and secure those safety eyes however you like. Even if you're not using safety eyes, I definitely recommend putting in stitch markers so that you know where the safety eyes would have gone, because that can help with aligning where to embroider the eyes. So those are in, and I'm going to grab a bit of stuffing here. And you won't need as much stuffing with these guys because we have so many ends tucked in here that they're actually providing a lot of the stuffing for us. Make sure you get all the way down to the bottom. Then I don't like to stuff it too full yet. I don't like when the stuffing gets caught in my hook as I'm crocheting. So I try to keep it a couple rounds down from where I'm working. And when you're working with the thicker yarns, it's easier, even when you're done your final round, to get in with the end of your hook to add a bit more stuffing to the top of the head. Okay, so we'll leave it like that for now. We're going to start round 16. So round 16 is also a decrease round. This time we're going to go from having 15 stitches down to 12 stitches. So to do that, we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches and then do a decrease. 1, 2. We'll repeat that 2 more times. So a total of 3 times. All right, then on to the last round, round 17. So for round 17, we're going to go from having 12 stitches down to 6. And to do that, we're going to decrease in each stitch around. Now, if you want to, especially if you're using a thinner yarn, you're going to want to add more stuffing in here. Make sure you get right under the rim here of the head. So I'm going to complete round 17 first before I add any more stuffing. And the key to keeping these decreases looking nice and tight is to just pull on your yarn. You don't want holes. Okay, so that's our final official round. Now, if you want to, we can do the hair tuft at the top of the head. I'm not going to do it for this guy, but you can look in on your pattern for how to do it, or you can watch one of the previous videos. The flamingo video has the hair tuft. I'll link the exact moment in the video that we start that hair tuft in the description for you. But I'm just going to leave my penguin with just a rounded head. Yeah. See, I'm using my hook to add the stuffing into the top, the head. Okay, so there's my little penguin. What I'm going to do here is just end off by slip stitching to the next stitch. And if you're doing the hair tuft, continue on to round 18. All right, we're just going to cinch up the top here. Okay, and then after you've completed this, find the yarn that you want to use to embroider on the beak, and then come back and I will show you how to do that. Just finish with a little knot here, poke that into the head. Okay, I'll be right back and we'll embroider on the beak. So I have about 12 to 18 inches of my gold dust yarn. You probably won't need anywhere near that much. Okay, and then what we're going to do is take a look at your instructions, and they say to insert your needle horizontally 1 round down from the eyes. So we can see that our eyes are on this round, round 12. Go down 1 round, and we want to go under about 3 stitches. Okay, so to do that, we have 2 center stitches here. So to do that, we want to kind of go down over here. So see how we've got the 3 sort of stitches there underneath our needle? That's what we want to do. So go under that. And you want to keep a few inches here just to hold on to so it doesn't pull all the way through. And you're going to just repeat through the same set of holes 4 to 5 times. So super quick and easy beak. If you want your beak to be a little bit bigger, you can add more repeats, or when you are putting your needle through, you can kind of go down on either side of where your previous lines are, and that'll sort of bulk up your beak for you. Okay, so I think we're good there. And then to end off, I just go here to where we originally inserted our needle and tie off the 2 ends. You want to tie the knot close to that insertion point so that then you can just pull the knot into the head with the yarn. Now see how that sort of distorted my beak a little bit? To fix that, you just go in with your needle underneath those strands of yarn and just kind of wiggle, and that'll even things out again. All right, let's cut our tails. And there we go. We have ourselves a cute little jelly bean penguin and some friends. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye for now.